I'm Jessie Sage, and this is When We're Not Hustling After Party, and we are going to be talking about Seska.
I'm Emily Foster. I'm the producer of When We're Not Hustling. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And Seska is so gorgeous. Oh my goodness.
So beautiful. That gray hair. I think
goodness.
Seska's the only person we've had on that's older than both of us.
Yes.
Yeah, that's neat.
No, I very pointedly noticed that. I was like, oh, I feel like we're
I'm young. I mean, we've had a lot of people on the show that were like 20 years older than.
But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, yes, her gray hair is beautiful, but I'm partial to gray hair. I'm like graying.
I mean, same, obviously. I've been looking forward to aging my whole life.
I don't have gray hair like hers yet. I'm like aspirationally like Seska.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and just her, I don't know. I think the theme of her whole episode was how to be in the most healthy possible way, age appropriately sexy.
Yeah.
Not, you be age appropriate, but more like, this is what's appropriate for your body as it ages. And here's how to sustain these spaces.
Like, this is what feels good for your body.
Yes.
Not like by conventional standards, but like,
right.
But what's pleasurable for you in the body that you occupy.
Right. And that huge acknowledgement of like your body completely changes. Yeah. What you like is going to completely change.
Right.
I used to love this. My body changed. I can't do that anymore. Now it's terrible. Right. So now
she
I have
totally
to
made
do
me
this.
laugh when she was like, I could take a lot. I could bang out.
Yeah.
She's like, I can't do that much anymore.
Yeah. Now everything's, now that results in tears and it's not comfortable. So now, this other thing. And it was like, I don't know. There was a lot of, Seska gave me a lot of permission, I think, because I am in menopause or perimenopause. I'm in one of those spaces. Mm-hmm. Everything's changing. Things are weird. Nothing feels the same. It's very, very complicated.
Right.
And there was such a matter of fact naturalness about hormones are a huge part of who you are, and they're changing. Of course, you're changing.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Silly.
I have to admit my own, I'm going to be like vulnerable for a minute because she said something that made me feel very called out, I want to say, for not doing this well. But that's something that I've been like thinking about. So, my partner went through cancer and reproductive cancer, testicular cancer, had a testicle removed, went through chemo, had like a lot of their body change, and it resulted in a lot of like changes in their sexuality. And I have to admit that like I did not handle that as well as like I could have handled it, or as gracefully as I could have handled it, because it's very difficult when the way that you relate to your partner changes because they've changed, but you've stayed the same. And one of the things that she said that I was like, this is a message for me and for my past me too, because I've gotten somewhat better, but like I still feel like this is a learning journey that I'm on. Is she said actually that we put too much weight on our partners and on our partner's sexuality, and our sexual journey is about us. And I was like, she's right. It is about us. We can't hold other people responsible for our pleasure or for our state of desire or, any of these things. And the way that she was like, you have partnered sex and sex is important in relationships, but also we need to reflect on like where we are, because this is about us and our bodies and our sexuality. And that was important for me.
Yeah. No, I'm on the other end of that. My body's changing and I'm the person who is experiencing changes. But, my husband has very real I was going to say mourning. And I think that's really
Yeah.
fair. He has a very real mourning of the way that it used to be very easy for us to relationally interact and now is not as much.
Right.
And that, you know, it's nobody's fault. He's not mad at me.
Right.
He doesn't think I killed it, but
Right.
it's still dead.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a revival of that in the works and planning, but it's not what it was. And my body isn't what it was. And part of that is menopause and part of that is health issues. But it's like, you know, and I very much know what you mean. Like I've, you know, I've had to figure that out alone. But I also have a lot of compassion for the other side of that too. You know,
and that's what I was thinking too, because it's natural to like, I mean, even going back to the like some themes just continue throughout our show. I think, you know, I'm thinking about what my mom was saying when we had my mom on, and my mom was saying, you know, relationships, if they're healthy, have to change. And she like added to that. And that's a very hard thing for humans to do. And that is a very hard thing, you know? And I think that I find what you're saying really important and really interesting, which is that like, it's hard to hold space for both of those experiences, even when it's nobody's fault, you know, because it's easy to say like, I know your body did experience a lot of trauma. I understand that. And I still wish that like...
And still, my partner can't have sex with me.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm doesn't want that to. Too. And I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like, how do you like reinterpret that to be something that's productive, where you can still have like... where your relationship changes, but it's still like your relationship. And I feel like that's something that Seska said that was really important, which is that like, it makes sense for your partner to mourn that, but it's also not your responsibility. And I think that something like that has happened, you know, in our relationship too, where we're also rebuilding that. But like, there's also a degree to which like maturity almost is like stepping back and being like, this isn't anybody's fault, but this is how things are now. And that's,
well, I think we have a really, like, that's a very funny societal thing that we have. When something goes wrong, we immediately look for who to blame. And then we go to punitive measures. And in relationship, especially in marriages or parent-child for that matter, but especially in marriages, like punitive doesn't work. That word shouldn't come up until you're divorcing if you ever, I'm sorry, get there. But, you know, like, we aren't offered the idea of, I am like in my current relationship, and of course things are a lot more complex than anything, but I'm mourning the loss of who I was. I'm mourning the loss of our relationship the way it was. And also I am the person who does not want intimacy right now. Like my body just cannot, it's a whole thing. And also my husband is mourning the loss of the way I was, and he's mourning the loss of the body and the person that I used to be. And also it has lost his main sexual partner, the person that he married to do that, you know? And all of those things are going on in our relationship, and it's no one's fault, and it wouldn't make any sense to blame or penalize anyone. And it's really strange. There's not a lot of resources for us to, you know, for anyone out there to like, well, what do you do when you're not at fault and it doesn't matter who's at fault? Time and happenstance are at fault. Okay, cool. Now what? You know, and
now what? Because now we're in a fight.
Right. And like, you know, and the answer seems to be just allow things the way they were to die and then build something new on that rubble. That's, I think, what we're in the process of doing. I know that I love him and I'm not breaking up with him, and we are currently working on it, but I don't actually know what it looks like because we aren't there yet, you know. But it's not easy. And
no, it's not. No.
You know, I don't find a lot of resources out there for relationships where both people are willing and interested in working on it. It's all about how to get the other person to work on it.
Right.
It's like, well, we're here. We're both showing up. And everyone's like, well, you should communicate more. It's like, yeah, we're both writers. We communicate, you know,
but yeah.
Like, you know, and it very much like your mom looking for resources. I find similar things. I find that it's talked about, aging is talked about, and changes are talked about. The change will happen. You know, it's this big capital letters with no specificity and just like this vague idea of suffering coming and like
suffering. Suffering, the death of any desirability.
Everything's going to go to shit and everyone's going to think you're a bitch. Like, that's what's coming, you know? Like, what? Or both.
I'm hoping to veer toward the witch end of things, but you never know.
I mean, I've done my very best to already plant a stake there. But no, Seska really, she really made me feel like there were people who had done this before me and had done it gracefully and beautifully, and that maybe there not being any necessarily rules to it was a good thing, and that it could look however I needed it to look. And you know, and she named a few authors. We'll make sure, I need to make sure they get into the show notes. They will be by the time this airs. I definitely need to check out, you know, but just Seska existing. I just sitting there and just being herself and being all cute. And I'm like, you know what? Like, it very much like you've said in previous episodes that seeing people with bodies like yours, embodying themselves, makes you see it in yourself more. And Seska just being herself and just a little older than me, it was like, oh, well, I mean, if it can look like that,
I guess this isn't the end of the world.
I mean, everything's good then. We're fine. Never mind. Sorry about the freak out. My bad. I thought it was going to be terrible.
That's kind of how I felt about like some of the relationship struggles that I was like thinking about through the lens of what Seska was saying. And I was like, why didn't I just handle it like that? That would have been better.
I mean, because we didn't know yet. It's
a lot, actually. Like it's
heavy. Like
it's heavy. And the episode didn't feel like that when we talked to her. But the themes
so
are
light
like
and fun, but
the themes are so important. Like so important. And almost like, we were talking about how Honey Daniels was just like, oh yeah. And then my friend was getting beaten and joy. There was an extent to which Seska was talking about very intense things too. Like, what if I can only get like a Q-tip up my vagina and like, I could never have penetrative sex again. Well, I guess we'll see what happens.
I guess we'll figure that out. Yeah.
And for somebody who made a living in porn and sex work and who was very high volume and who did it for 25 years, that's a big deal. That's not a small
thing. It's a really
thing.
big deal.
Yeah.
That's in your entire, that's who you are.
Yeah.
And your money and your job and your, like all your contacts and.
Yeah. And so like the grace, really... I guess what I'm like picking up from there is not that what she was saying was light, but that she talked about it with grace, like with a grace that carried you through it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a really good way to put that.
Yeah. We're so lucky that we get to talk to these people.
I swear, you tease me about it every week because every time we do an interview, I'm like, that was the best one yet. Like you say that every time. I'm like, I know.
Well, because everybody brings something new, and something different. And there's something so amazing about that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think you are you're really good at inviting people to be intimate and to be vulnerable, and they're really sharing a piece of themselves, and it's
I
pretty
love
great
to do that.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I mean, it's kind of your job.
I'm fundamentally incapable of like shooting the shit. I like think I am. There's something wrong with me. I'm like, oh, even like when we started talking, I think we were like texting when we just
went right
met each
into
other,
deep stuff. Yeah,
and we were talking about heart-wrenching child rearing.
Well, there's like a really funny meme that circulates every now and then. It's like, well, I don't get people who don't do small talk. What do you just come through the door? Hey, honey, what do you think about the meaning of life? And I'm like, well, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, yeah. That.
That's what I've said that to PJ before because.
Like, so, what do you think about free will?
I know. Yeah, I sent that one to my partner too, and I was like, "This is what our marriage looks like."
Yeah,
like,
this is
yeah, pretty much.
You're like, well, yeah.
I'm like, extroverts think that's so. Extroverts find that so puzzling. They're like, "What do you mean?" Mm-hmm. But
yeah,
I can't. I want to dive right in.
You're welcome to enter the rooms talking about free will anytime, but I will probably lose you after like 3 or 4 soirees about sports or whatever.
We're tired.
Still doing the concussions, are they? Alrighty.
All right. Yeah. Well, this is When We're Not Hustling, the after party. You can like us and subscribe. I'm going to pass this over to you. This is the after party. I'm Jessie Sage.
I am Emily Foster, and you can subscribe, you can leave a comment, and you can follow us everywhere that there is social media at Not Hustling Pod.
Perfect. Great.